Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta ya hayyu ya qayyum taj'alul hazna in shi'ta sahla. Allahumma arzuqna niyatin khalisatan liwajhika al-kareem. Lillahi ta'ala. The author, may Allah protect him, said, the meaning of the second shahada, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, is, I admit with my tongue and I firmly believe in my heart that our master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sent by Allah to the entire world, to humans and jinn. The explanation: to say with the tongue while believing firmly with the heart that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sent by Allah as a prophet and a messenger to all the humans and the jinn. He was sent not just to the humans, not just to the jinn, not just to the Arabs, not just to the non-Arabs. He was sent for all the people from his time to the day of judgment. One must believe in him. So when we say to believe, we mean one needs to believe firmly and to submit himself. It is not enough just to know. For example, knowing that that Muhammad is a prophet. It is not enough just to know that Muhammad is a prophet, but one needs to also submit. So knowing without saying the testification of faith to become a Muslim is not enough. Doesn't Iblis know that no one is God except Allah? He did. He lived in paradise. He knows that no one is God except Allah. But he has i'tirad. He has objection to Allah. He objects to Allah. He had arrogance, he had envy, and his arrogance and envy led him to commit blasphemy, to object. So this objection basically is the contrary of submitting, and he does not submit himself. He's not a believer. So he knows that no one is God except Allah, but because he objects to Allah, and this is in his heart, and he will never leave that out, because Allah Ta'ala did not will guidance for him. So he objects to Allah and he doesn't become a believer. So knowing is not enough. One needs to know that no one is God except Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Believe in it and say it. Submit to that by saying the testification of faith while believing in it. Then this person will become a believer. It is narrated about two Jews that at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that one of them said to the other, let's go to this prophet. So he said, let's go visit that prophet. And the other one quickly told him, don't say prophet, because if you say prophet, then you would be admitting his call. Although they knew that he's a prophet, but they said don't say it, because now you're going to admit to what he's calling. So then they went to the Prophet ﷺ, these two Jews, and they started to ask him specific questions that was revealed to Prophet Musa ﷺ, specific things to the Jews, which the people of that era did not know. Only the Jews knew. So they asked him 9 questions relating to the Jews. And the Prophet ﷺ answered all of them. And then they went and kissed the hand and the foot of the Prophet ﷺ, both of them. So after they kissed the hand and foot of the Prophet ﷺ, they didn't embrace Islam. They didn't say the Shahada. Although they knew that he's the Prophet, they asked the question, knowing that only the Jews know, and the Prophet answered it. But they didn't embrace Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ said, what is preventing you from following me? What's preventing you from embracing Islam? Becoming a Muslim. You know it, so become a Muslim. Submit. And they lied. They said, Dawood alayhi salam, he had made a supplication that the lineage of prophethood, that prophethood would be in his lineage, which was not true. Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam never made this supplication. And then they also said something else. If we embrace Islam, the Jews will kill us. They said something like that. These two Jews knew that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was a prophet, but they did not submit, and they did not become a Muslim. So knowing by itself, without the submission, is not enough for a person to become a believer. So such knowledge does not benefit because it was not associated with believing. So this is an example of how just knowing is not enough. It has to be associated with the belief. The Jews knew that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is a prophet. He was mentioned in their books. It was mentioned in the original Torah. It was mentioned in the original Injil. The Torah is the book that was revealed to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Injil was the book that was revealed to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. They knew because it existed in their book. And at that time it was not corrupted yet. Till the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the book of Torah was not perverted. It was not changed. As for the Bible, it was changed prior to that. But the Torah was not perverted yet. And they knew it's in there. So knowing without submitting, without becoming a Muslim is not enough. Both books, the Injil and the Torah, was perverted. First the meanings were perverted. Then later the actual statements was perverted. It was changed. The Injil was perverted before the Torah. So although which book is older? The Torah. It came to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Musa came before Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So that book remained until the time of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. They changed it during his lifetime, during the lifetime of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. As for the Injil, it was changed much before, about 200 to 300 years after the ascension of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. They perverted it. So at the time of the Prophet, the original Torah still existed at the hands of some Jews. It was perverted by the Jews during his time. As for the Injil, 200 years after Isa alayhi salatu wasalam's ascension to the second heaven, many people who followed Isa alayhi salatu wasalam started to commit blasphemy. We're talking about 200 years after the ascension of Isa. 300 years after his ascension, and most of those who claimed to follow Isa alayhi salatu wasalam were blasphemers, but a minority who truly followed Isa alayhi salatu wasalam were severely persecuted. They were severely oppressed to the point that many of them left the cities and towns and they went for the mountains. And with time, they vanished. Subhanallah. At that time, a Roman ruler, before he died, he became a Christian. And this person was a tyrant before he became a Christian, and he was a tyrant after he became a Christian. He adopted the creed of the Trinity, and he gathered many people on the 4 books that today that they attribute those to being the Bible. Those 4 books that's in the Bible. I'm not sure of all their names, but it's very well known. he gathered and he made them follow that book that they attributed to being the original Bible, which wasn't. This ruler, this tyrant, once he adopted the creed, he oppressed anyone who opposed it. Since then, this continued. His mother built more than 300 churches under his rulership. This is how the Trinity was spread among the people, and this is how they started to persecute the believers, the true followers of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. They persecuted them very severely, as I mentioned, to the point where they could not even live in the cities and towns, and they went to the mountains, and they started to become less and less in number, and until they vanished. Very, very few people, believers on earth, remained during that time. This is why this is called the time of Jahiliyyah. Because before the revelation to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, very few believers had remained on earth. So the oldest copy of the Bible that they have, it goes back to about 200 years after the ascension of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. This is because after that time, the true believers of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam became a minority. There were very few true believers left, and they were able to do what they did. It was recently discovered some old copies of the Bible that it mentions that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam is not God. They were discovered in several places in Jordan, Palestine, and Egypt, next to the old churches and monasteries. In one of them, it explicitly states that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was not killed. Jesus was not killed, and the one who was crucified was one that they thought was Jesus, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. Whether they discovered it or not, we know that already. So, because it's mentioned explicitly in the Quran that he wasn't killed nor crucified. Rather, he was raised to the second heaven. And Isa, between Isa, Jesus, and Muhammad alayhim as-salatu was-salam, is about 600 years. So the next lesson began, and the Shaykh gave some advices. He said, you need to study and review and not just listen to the lessons. Believe me, some people think they know the material, but once they need to express it, they find themselves uneasy. Sometimes they discover that they didn't really know it. So, hearing the lessons is very important. That's the first step. If a person didn't hear, then how would he learn? That's the first. And then reviewing it is also very important. Yeah, I eventually put it up on YouTube. I put it on Facebook normally. Eventually I get it up on YouTube. The most important obligation is to believe in Allah and His Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the most enormous sin is to commit blasphemy. A little recap of what we spoke about. The one who dies as a kafir will remain in hellfire forever. The Muslim who commits one or more enormous sins and dies without repenting will enter paradise. Either some of those Muslims will be forgiven and not tortured in hellfire at all, while some others will not be forgiven and they will enter hellfire. They will be tortured. Those Muslims that enter hellfire, they will be tortured for a period of time in hellfire, and then they will enter paradise. It is not enough to believe in the oneness of Allah without believing in the prophethood of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. You cannot reject the messenger that Allah sent and still be considered a believer. This doesn't work. Didn't Iblis become shaitan because he objected to what to what Allah ordered him is to prostrate to Adam alayhi salam. So one needs to submit entirely to what Allah revealed. Everything. The believer is not like the Jews who said, we hear and we disobey. Or they said, and also they said, we hear, we believe in some and we blaspheme in the rest. The believers are those who say, Sami'na wa ata'na. We believe, we hear, and we obey. You know that some rules in Islam, the people in the West, they're not used to it. And those people who want to appease the Westerners, they might say, men and women are equal to them. And then a person would say, well, how is it that they're equal? A man covers between his navel and knees, and a woman has to cover all her body. Is this equal? If a Muslim man, a free Muslim man is killed, then the diya for that is 100 camels. If a Muslim woman free is killed, then the diya is half of that. They might tell you, is this equality? Well, who said that in Islam it's equal? Rather, if a Muslim male or a female that does a good deed, they'll get the same reward. If they commit a sin, then they deserve the same punishment. As far as the doings in the religion, there's some things ordered for a woman, not for a man. The man is obligated to do, and the woman is not, and vice versa. So we submit to whatever Allah revealed to His Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam entirely. Because on the Day of Judgment, Allah, the one who makes things speak, will make the hellfire speak. Hellfire will be asked, Halim tala'ti? Are you full? And it will say, Hal min mazid? Is there more? The believer, he fears Allah and he submits to whatever Allah has revealed. And we do not object to Allah. As for the one who objects to Allah, then that place is waiting for him. We seek refuge with Allah from that. So, the Muslim, he submits to everything that is revealed in the religion, and he accepts and believes in all of that. And we mentioned that that the belief in Allah has to be associated with belief in Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And it was like that from the time of Adam till the Day of Judgment. Always, you needed to believe in the past. You needed to believe, if you were at the time of Adam, believe that Allah is one without a partner, and believe that Adam was the prophet. In the time of Moses, the same thing. In the time of Jesus, the same thing. And now, from the time that Muhammad got the revelation till the Day of Judgment, one needs to believe in Allah properly and believe in Muhammad that he's the messenger of Allah. Otherwise, this person would not be a believer. The author said, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is truthful about everything that he conveyed from Allah Azza wa Jal. The people are obligated to believe in him and follow his rules. The explanation: Allah revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam about matters that happened before him, about matters that will happen in the future. In this life, he informed us about things that will happen in this life. He informed us about things that will happen in the hereafter. He informed us about laws. He informed us about what is halal, what permissible, what is haram, what is an obligation, etc. We have to believe. It is an obligation on us to believe in all what Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam conveyed from Allah. We know the wisdom, whether we know the wisdom behind some of those matters that Allah revealed to the Prophet, or we do not know the wisdom behind it. Because our knowledge is limited. Some things we know the wisdom, and some things we do not know the wisdom of. Truly, there is a wisdom for everything. If we do not know the wisdom, doesn't mean there's no wisdom. There is wisdom. We don't know it. We still believe in it, regardless of the fact if we knew the wisdom or not. We have to believe in all of it. Everything that Allah reveals to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is true, regardless of who agrees with us and who disagrees with us about that. There are clear-cut proofs that Muhammad is truly a prophet. By consequence, everything that he said that Allah revealed to him is true. So, the Prophet showed miracles. That shows that he's truthful. Allah sends prophets, and those prophets show miracles. What are miracles? Miracles are extraordinary things that happen at the hand of the one who claims to be a prophet. So those, and in accordance to his call. So when they show miracles, it's as if to say, "O people, believe in this man. Allah Ta'ala, He is the one who sent him. He is my prophet. Believe in him." And this is the proof that he's truthful. Allah will create things out of the ordinary to show his truthfulness, alayhi salatu wassalam. So this man would not be like other men. This prophet would not be like other people. So he has to be believed in, and Allah Ta'ala shows miracles to show his truthfulness. So there are clear-cut proofs that Muhammad is truly the prophet of Allah, many miracles that he showed. And so let's say some things about, we mentioned some of the things that he mentioned. He mentioned about, you know that Allah Ta'ala said about Zaytun, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. Zaytun, the olives, is very beneficial. Allah Ta'ala swore by the olive, or the olive tree, or the olive. And we know that the olive is something beneficial. We know that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Eat olive oil," and he used to, and to rub it on yourself. So he said that. And about 20 or 30 years ago, the Shaykh is saying, I believe in order to sell other types of oils, they started to say olive oil they came up with terms of cholesterol, and they say it causes cholesterol, it causes other harmful things. This was, as somebody is older, they might remember that they started to spread that. Then, after all the oils were sold in the different countries, now they come up with studies. They say, well, no, olive oil it doesn't give you what the kind of things that it does is not harmful, it's actually beneficial. But we already know that the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged it. We know Allah Ta'ala swore by the olive in the Quran, so it means that the olive is something beneficial. Allah Ta'ala swears by something either because it has a high rank, has a high status, or it's very beneficial. In the case of the olive, we know it's very beneficial. So, we believe in it regardless if someone opposed what the Prophet said. We believe in it because he is the messenger of Allah. Once one of the companions had an ailment in his stomach. Once again, we know that the honey is beneficial. Allah Ta'ala, in the Surat Al-Nahl, the bee. There's a surah in the name of the honeybee. That honeybee gives honey. And Allah Ta'ala mentioned about the honey that it's a cure for diseases. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ used to eat honey, and he encouraged it. And he even gave it as a medicine to people. So once one of the companions, his brother was ill. He had a stomach ailment, diarrhea he had. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining that his brother is ill. The Prophet ﷺ told him to make honey that you mix with water and you drink that. So the companion went and told his brother. The brother did that. And he came back the next time and he said, Ya Rasulullah, my brother is still ill. The Prophet ﷺ told him again to mix the honey with the water and let him drink it. He came back like this 3 or 4 times. After the 3 or 4 times, he's still saying that my brother is ill. The Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He said, صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَكَذَبَ بَطْنُ أَخِيكَ. Literally translating it, saying Allah said the truth and the stomach of your brother lied. The meaning is, this is translated literally, the meaning is, it means regardless of the condition of the stomach of your brother, Allah is truthful. He revealed to me that honey is beneficial for this. So regardless of your brother, I know and I believe that this is beneficial. And he told him to do it again. And he did, and his brother was cured. So, we must believe in everything that the Prophet ﷺ came with. As for some worldly matters, when it comes to the religious matters, of course, it is revealed to him. And whatever he reveals from Allah, whatever is revealed to him from Allah, he conveys, and the Prophet is truthful. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, what about some worldly issues? The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he came to teach us what is beneficial for us in the hereafter. And the things that he teaches us, it benefits us in this life and in the hereafter. Certain worldly matters that were not revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, certain worldly matters, not religious matters, that were not revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, it's possible, some scholars said that it is possible for him to make a mistake in those matters. They're matters that do not pertain to our religion. They're matters that were not revealed to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, worldly matters. And some scholars said it's possible that the Prophet ﷺ would make a mistake in those issues. And they cite as proof, they said once he spoke to some people about a way of tending to palm trees that give dates, right? Palm trees that give dates. They did that, and they came back and told the Prophet ﷺ it did not give any fruits, it did not give any dates at all. So the Prophet ﷺ told them, Antum a'lamu bi umuri dunyakum, which means you know more about some of your worldly matters. This is the worldly matter that you guys do. You have experience in those things, and some of those worldly matters you know more about it, so do it as the way you did it before. First he told them, لو فعلتم كذا, if you did it like this. So they did that, and when they did that, the dates didn't come. So then the Prophet ﷺ told them, some of your worldly matters, you know better about your worldly matters, do it the way that you were doing it before. So the scholar said this is the type of thing that it's possible for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to, it's possible for him to do something like this. As for the religious matters, it is not possible for the Prophet ﷺ to make mistakes in. Allah protects His prophets. They're ma'soom. They will never commit a mistake in the religion. So it's not like they would say something in the religion, they say, oh, I was mistaken, now do it like this. I made a mistake. Prophets ﷺ, they do not make mistakes in the religion. So in this continuation of this hadith, he said, لكن إذا أتيتكم بشيء من حلال أو حرام فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. But if I tell you something that is halal or that it is haram, then follow it. The Prophet ﷺ, due to his mercy, mentioned so that no one would misunderstand. When the Prophet ﷺ orders you with something, you obey. In this hadith, there is a refutation for those who claim that the Prophet ﷺ makes a mistake in religious matters. A man named Qardawi once made a mistake that he could not squirm his way out of it. He said, I made ijtihad and I was wrong. And he continued to say, well, the Prophet made ijtihad and he was wrong. So I also made ijtihad and I was wrong. Waliyadhu billah. First of all, it's as if he was qualified to make ijtihad. Ijtihad is for mujtahid, and he's not anywhere near even being a scholar, lowest level of a scholar, and for him to become, being qualified to give ijtihad is very far away. That's one thing. And then on top of that, he said something very wrong. We seek refuge with Allah from that. He said that the Prophet ﷺ makes mistakes in religious matters. Even when he made... So first he said that the Prophet ﷺ makes ijtihad. And then he said that he can be wrong in that ijtihad. If you say that the Prophet ﷺ makes ijtihad, then his ijtihad is always right. He does not make a mistake in the religion. Because he said the aforementioned hadith, that whenever I tell you something about a matter that is halal or haram, then follow it. It is truthful. Allah ordered us to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Didn't Allah Ta'ala mention in numerous verses of the Quran, O believers, follow Muhammad. The Prophet ﷺ, he will guide you to paradise. He will guide you to what is beneficial. Through his guidance, you will stay away from hellfire. So how would it be possible that he would make a mistake? Allah Ta'ala is ordering us to follow him. He will be a guide. It is not possible for him to make a mistake in a religious matter. So even if he makes his ijtihad, he will never make a mistake. This man Qardawi, who claims to be a great scholar, perverted many rules among the rules of the religion. That the Shaykh said, I saw a paper which he signed. An association paid for him and invited him to the USA. They paid the expenses. In return, he made a fatwa and he signed it. It was written with his own handwriting. In it, he said, it is permissible for this association to spend from the zakat on their gatherings and books. So he said that the zakat that is supposed to be given for the poor people, that this association could use it on their gatherings and in their books, and he signed that fatwa. Because to gain a few dollars. Waliyadhu billah. Like I said before, many of these people, they don't start out saying, I want to be a misguided person. I want to learn the religious knowledge so that I will misuse it so that I can end up in hellfire. That's not how they start. They start out saying, I want to become good. I want to spread the religion of Islam. Then after some time, the hubb ad-dunya, to love for the materialistic things in this life, increases in their heart, and then slowly it blinds them. Doesn't arrogance sometimes blind the person and he cannot see the truth? No matter how many times you tell them, that his arrogance is like a barrier in front of him. No matter how many times you say it, he will not understand. because his arrogance has put a barrier in front of him. Also, the Prophet ﷺ repeatedly said, "Iyyakum wad-dunya." So, mentioned that this love for becoming rich and wealthy, in no matter what way, then this will blind the person and he will not see the truth. And this is the likes of people like him. So, the love for the dunya has blinded him for the money, and for power, for chair, for this, for position, to the point where they cannot see the truth. And sometimes they get to the point where they believe in their own lies. So, he signed that paper. Another time, he gave a fatwa for another group of people in Denmark, saying that a Muslim who's living in Europe or USA, that he can sell wine in his store. But he has some qualifications. He said he can sell wine in his store, but the majority of his merchandise must not be alcohol. So as long as the majority is not alcohol, he said he can sell wine. And he said, let him not dirty his hand with this. Let him hire somebody else so that he can dirty his hand. If something is dirty, why would you want another person to come and dirty their hands with that? Basically what he's saying, to hire a non-Muslim to sell the wine for him. If something is sinful, then it is haram, and we know that a person will be asked about the basis of belief and the branches. So if a person doesn't pray and he's a non-Muslim, he will be questioned. Are we still connected? I think we are. He'll be questioned on the Day of Judgment for the branches. So, for example, if he kills, he steals, he harms, it doesn't mean that the person will only be asked about his blasphemy. He will be asked about those other things he does too. And as a Muslim, you cannot order somebody to commit sins. So why would he say if it's something dirty, why would he say, go ahead and hire somebody else to do this dirty work? But that's what he said. He said, let him not dirty his hand with this, and he should hire someone else to do it. This is what he said. Among the ugly issues that he said was that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ can make ijtihad, and he can make mistakes in his ijtihad. This sheikh said, I saw him on TV saying this statement. It is not someone who told me about it. I heard him myself. We were talking about, why is this important? We were talking about the second testification of faith, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So we must believe in him, submit to him entirely, and accept everything that he conveyed from Allah Ta'ala, and believe in him. Everything that he says, we must believe in. Alayhi salatu wassalam. The author said, what is meant by the two testifications of faith is to negate the status of godhood for other than Allah, and to confirm to Allah alone with admitting and believing in prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Explanation. In general, this is what is meant by the two shahadas, the shahadatain. No one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and for sure Muhammad is sent by God. He is the messenger of Allah. When we say no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, it is important to know the meaning of worship, because some people do not understand the meaning of worship, and as a consequence they made false doctrines and they established false rules and ideologies based on that. So, what is the meaning of worship? And some people did not understand this word, the meaning of worship, And as a result, they said, they based many false ideologies based on this. According to the Book of Allah, the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Arabic language, al-ibadah, worship, means to have the ultimate, extreme, maximum submission, nihayat al-tadallul, the ultimate submission. أقصى درجات الخضوع والخشوع, the maximum, the ultimate, the extreme submission is what they mentioned about the word ibadah. Just calling on someone, whether this one is alive or dead, present or absent, is not worship as believed by some people. So calling somebody, saying, "Oh Zaid," saying, "Oh Zaid," it does not mean that you worship Zaid, whether Zaid was alive or whether Zaid was dead. It does calling does not, the mere calling is not worship. So this case is not as the ignorant Wahhabies thought. They believe that calling on the absent person or a dead person is worshipping this person. And because of this false belief, they accuse Muslims as kuffar in the east, the west, the north, and the south. Muslims say, "Ya Rasulullah." As a child growing up, I heard my mother saying this many, many times. As the Shaykh mentioned, and the times of happiness and the times of sadness. This is something very common in our country, Afghanistan, and many other Muslim countries. When people become happy, sometimes they say, "Ya Rasulullah." I grew up hearing that. Or if something bothers them, they're in a tough situation, they say, "Ya Rasulullah." It's something very common. These people said that saying "Ya Rasulullah" is worshipping the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what they said. Due to their ill thoughts, bad intentions, and ignorance, they thought and believed that this is kufr. They said, "How do you call on the Prophet after his death?" But wait a minute, don't we believe that there's life in the grave? So we know, even the blasphemer, if you say, "Oh blasphemer, how is the torture that Allah promised you?" As the Prophet did say, it doesn't mean that you worship that blasphemer by saying, "Oh blasphemer." So just saying, "Oh such and such," is not worshipping, unless the person said it with the intention to worship. Like when we say, "Oh Allah," our intention is to worship, because we intend to give the ultimate submission to our Creator. So when we say, "Oh Allah," then we're saying it with the intention to worship. But if I'm calling my son, "Oh Zaid," for example, it does not mean that I worship the one that I'm calling. So Muslims say that in the tough times and in happy times. Many Muslims say that. Also many Muslims say, "Ya Rifa'i, Ya Jilani," or the like. Sometimes they say that when they're hard times or happy times. The Wahhabis, due to their ill thoughts, bad intentions, and ignorance, thought they believed that this is kufr. And they said that, "How do you call on the person who's dead?" They innovated a rule and said, anyone who calls on the Prophet or anyone who's dead is committing shirk and kufr. So as a consequence, they considered all Muslims except themselves as blasphemers. For them, so if they said, "We know what is the meaning of shirk, is to worship other than Allah." So worshipping other than Allah, does it matter if a person worships something that is dead or alive? If the mere calling was worshipping other than Allah, then it would make no difference if somebody calls someone alive or dead. Because worshipping other than Allah is blasphemy. And if the mere calling was worshipping, then also for the alive it would be shirk. Why do they make exception for the alive? And how about inanimate objects were not attributed with God, with life at all? So if somebody worships those things, it's not even a rock or a stone or an idol, it's still blasphemy. It has nothing to do with being alive, dead, absent, or that, because they don't understand the meaning of worship. Waliyadu billah. So according to them, you can worship an alive person and not a dead person? If the mere calling was worshiping, then you couldn't do that with an alive person either. And we know the companions used to say, Ya Rasulullah, to the Prophet ﷺ while he was alive. And they said it after he passed away too. But they reject that. So for the Muslims, for them, these Wahhabis, the Muslims are people who they need to fight. And this is why it is easy for them to kill, to plant bombs. It is easy for them. It doesn't matter to them if the bombs kill women, children, or the innocent, because they consider all of them blasphemers, that they need to fight them. In the past, when they were unable to conquer the areas of Al-Hijaz, they entered, when they were able to conquer the areas of Hijaz, they entered the city of Ta'if, which is a city about 20 miles away from Mecca. They killed the adults and the children, even the pregnant woman. They stabbed her womb so that the fetus will die inside her womb. And a woman from that city of Ta'if told me, that Shaykh is saying, that this woman in the city of Ta'if told me that her grandmother was alive when they did that. They gathered all the women, the ones that were alive. They killed whomever they killed. The women that were alive, they imprisoned them in an open area, so under the heat and the cold, for 3 days, and they didn't give them any food. And if you know the city of Mecca, the city of Ta'if, it has better temperature in terms of more moderate temperature than Mecca, but still it's not easy to be under the extreme heat and cold in that area for 3 days without food. This woman, she's saying, she's narrating from her grandmother. Her grandmother was a beautiful woman. So after they took over this area, those Wahhabis that were established, some of the female Wahhabis used to tell her that you're very pretty, but you're a chafira. That's how they say in their language. they can't pronounce that properly. They call them, instead of kafira, they say chafira. They say, oh, you're pretty, but you're a chafira. Waliyadu billah. Before oil was found in their state, they used to attack the Muslim villages, towns and villages, just as they do nowadays. Their strategy is still the same. They attack the villages, they take their belongings and kill. This is how they used to do. So about 70 years ago, they attacked a village in Jordan, and they killed 3,000 people. And they reached to a place, finally the Jordanians were able to defeat them. One Jordanian who was present at that time witnessed. He was a child, but he was still aware. He knew things. He was a child who understood. He said what they did. He said they brought all the people who were not dead that they captured. They brought the men. They laid them down, and they said, "Chafir adu Allah," and then they said, "Bismillah." They said Bismillah, and they slaughtered them. Subhanallah. If they could, they would kill all the Muslims. But how many are they in number? They're between 1 million, 1.5 to 2 million at most. And the Muslims are more than 1,000 million. So they cannot do that. These are just a few stories, but what they truly did is recorded in historical books, newspapers of the time, pictures and other than that. A head of a big tribe in Syria came to visit Sheikh Abdullah. This tribe contained millions of people and I was present. So the Sheikh is saying, I was present when this man visited Sheikh Abdullah. He said, I entered a masjid to pray. This masjid was next to a police station. It was built for the police station to pray in it, and it was in a city called Abha in Saudi Arabia. It was Jumu'ah prayer. He said, I heard the khatib, the one who's giving the speech, saying, I swear by Allah, there are no Muslims in the east or the west other than you. The grandson of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the one who established their evil sect, has a book in which he explained what his grandfather said. He said, the people of Egypt are kuffar. And this book still exists. You can find them. Find their books. They said the people of Egypt are kuffar because they have a big belief. They said that they're kuffar because they worship Ahmad al-Badawi, who was a great wali, and the people of Egypt have a big belief that he is a pious, righteous, salih wali, Ahmad Badawi radiyallahu anhu wa rahmatullah alayh. They said the people of Egypt worship him because they visit his grave. Visiting the grave of a wali is not worshipping him. They said the people of Asham are kuffar because they worship Mahyuddin ibn Arabi, a great wali. And regarding him, some of them they declare as Mahyuddin ibn Arabi as a blasphemer, waliyadhu billah. Although he was a pious scholar and wali, but this is what they said about him. And the people of Yemen, they said, are kuffar because they worship Ahmad ibn Alwan, who was also a great wali. And the people of Iraq, they said, are kuffar because they worship Abdul Qadir Jilani. Because the people of Iraq, they visit Abdul Qadir Jilani, amongst other awliya. And they continue to say, likewise, all other Muslim countries. In Afghanistan, thousands upon thousands, don't they visit the grave of Tamim wa Jubair Ansari, wa Layth ibn Qais ibn Abbas, who's buried in Kabul. And in Ghazna, we say Ghazni, and Balkh, and Mazar al-Sharif, you see the people go from morning to night visiting the graves of maqams. So of course we would fall under their claim that because we worship the grave of awliya and the pious people, what we know that we can visit the grave of our parents and our relatives, so they just want to attack the pious people. Don't visit them. Why not? The Prophet ﷺ used to visit the Baqiyah. It's next to about 5 minutes from the place that from his home, Al-Baqiyah. He used to go visit. He used to go make dua for them. So visiting the grave of awliya, the graves of awliya, is not shirk. And this, he called his book, waliyadhu billah, he called it Qurratul A'yun Al-Muwahhidin. Means something like the light of the eyes of those who muwahhid, those people who claim that Allah, those who believe that Allah is one. This is what he called his book, that in it they called the people east and the west as non-Muslims. In Ethiopia is a region called Oromia. The Wahhabies gained power at one period of time in that region. They burned 119 masjids in that area. Why? Because the people celebrated the Mawlid in that area. They considered all those people blasphemers that need to be killed, that need to be fought against. I know this, when a person hears these things, it's not easy for the heart to take. It makes the person sad. It brings feelings. Sometimes the person wants to spend his time talking about Allah and His Messenger Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and he would be very happy that he's learning about that. But also one has to know these things, because especially in our times it's very relevant. And what did the scholars say? Those who do not know evil are more likely to fall into it. If you're blind and you're walking, and in this path, every day you walk back and forth through this path and it has a big ditch in there, and you don't see it, one day you're going to fall in that ditch. So I know it's hard on the heart to hear about this, and it's very sad, but one needs to hear about it. It's very relevant to what's happening. So don't be fooled by some Muslims that are ignorant. They say, why can't we just unite? Why can't we just all get along? Let's all get along. Let's all unite and gather. They say, this is what they say. It's due to their ignorance. They say, Muslims, what a good statement. Let the Muslims unite and gather. Of course we're for the statement. We're for unity. But of course it is good for Muslims to unite. Muslims want unity. So I will unite with a Muslim who believes that I am a Muslim, that I am his brother. I will put aside my differences and follow what the religion orders. He will put aside his differences and he will follow what Allah has commanded. We will unite while obeying Allah and His Messenger Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. We will not unite on disobedience. This is not the good unity. If we all come together and we unite on committing a sin, did we do something good? No, we didn't. So we must unite on doing the good. Both of us will put aside our differences, and we will not unite on committing sins. So I will unite with that Muslim who doesn't want to kill me, who doesn't believe that my blood is permissible, it's halal. He thinks that separating my neck from my body is something good. I'm going to unite with that person. If I unite with him, let's say I say, okay, I unite with you, I'm not going to cause any harm to you. What's going to happen the first chance that he gets? Well, he believes that killing you is something good, that you're not a Muslim. The first chance he gets, he's going to bring harm on you. So let not the person be fooled by these statements. They say, bring unity. They say, okay, we want unity, but what are we going to unite on? Does it mean to come to an agreement on a wrong belief and to say that this is correct? Is this unity? Is this unity? Does it mean to come together and agree on stopping, warning others from sins and blasphemy? Of course not. Those people say that they don't know the reality of these people and they're truly ignorant. So let's say you had an agreement with them, with these Wahhabies. One day, if he can, he will slaughter you because he believes what he believes about you. So be aware of that. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from their harm. And this is just some of the things that they mention. And among other things that they mention, they attribute to Allah Ta'ala bodily attributes. They attribute to Allah Ta'ala. They say, if you do not believe that Allah has, if somebody explains what the term Yadullah means, that some scholars said it means the power of Allah. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari said that the attributes of khabar, the attributes that is mentioned, other than the 13 attributes, the attributes of khabar, like Yadullah, and other than that, it goes back to these 13 attributes. So some scholars said it refers to the power of Allah. Some scholars said those are attributes of Allah and they did not give an explanation. So if somebody comes to you and says, look, Abu Hanifa said, do not say about Yadullah that is Qudratullah. They might bring it in Fiqh al-Akbar, they might bring you a statement, they say, look, Abu Hanifa said, do not say that Yadullah is Qudratullah. So we say, yes, Abu Hanifa said that. The scholars, they give this explanation in two ways. Some of the scholars, they said, Allah is not attributed with bodily organs. He is not attributed with a body. He does not resemble the creation. One, it is not permissible to liken Allah to the creation. The one who attributes the attribute of creation to Allah is a blasphemer. This is what Abu Hanifa said. All of these statements. وَمَنْ وَصَفَ اللَّهَ بِمَعْنًا مِنْ مَعَانِ الْبَشَرِ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. So then when they said about the attribute of Allah, Yadullah, they said, as it is, we believe in it, and they didn't give any explanation. Imam Malik did the same thing. And the one who came and started asking in the majlis of Imam Malik, he threw him out. Other scholars said that this people in need of hearing the explanation, and they gave explanation. And there's many, many scholars who give explanation. And some of those scholars said it means the power of Allah. So it is not permissible to say that this term means hand and then translate that into English by using the word hand. Because yad can mean hand, but not for Allah Ta'ala. Either you say like those scholars and you say, we say it, we leave it in Arabic and we say we believe in it, or you say like those other scholars, you give the translate the meaning of it. Yes, brother. Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu said it is not permissible to say dast in Farsi about Allah. This is narrated from Abu Hanifa. Dist in Amiya, in colloquial, dast in our Fusha, it is not permissible to say dast or dist about Allah in Farsi. Because you know Abu Hanifa, he's among the Persians. And he came over 1,000 years ago. He knows best the language of Farsi than us. He said it's not permissible. So how can they translate? They use the word eyes, finger, leg, face to Allah Ta'ala. Rather, we do not reject any verse. We say the verses as it is. We believe in them. If you want, you go as those scholars who give explanation, you give the explanation, you translate the explanation. And they said this term, Yadullah, it goes back to the attribute of power of Allah. And some scholars said, we leave it as it is. We believe in it. But we don't say that this is a hand and then not like other hands. This does not help you to say not like other hands after you already likened Allah to the creation. Just like the one who says, we're the children of God but not like other children. It does not save them. Then they're to be taught. If somebody doesn't know the meaning of this, they're to be taught. But if they believe that Allah Ta'ala has physical attributes, then it's blasphemy and they need to say the Shahada. These are the things that they want to cause confusion, and because of these things, they end up calling Muslims as non-Muslims. And while they themselves attribute to Allah Ta'ala bodily attributes, which no Muslim accepts. May Allah Ta'ala protect us in the Muslim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد طه الأمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وذكرنا ما نسينا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا من القائمين الصابرين واشرح لنا صدورنا ونور قلوبنا واجعل القرآن الكريم ربيعا لقلوبنا ونورا لأبصارنا وأكرمنا برؤية ولقاء سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.